Hi, in this section I want to look at Sketchless and saleor. And I'm not going to really go into Sketchless because what Sketchless is a e-commerce system for Python, so not specifically for Django. And saleor is a framework built on top of the principles used in Sketchless. So essentially, these are the same things. If you'd like to go more into the core development of how e-commerce works, then Sketchless may be a better option, and that will allow you to completely create your own e-commerce setup based off a basic Python e-commerce framework. This is not really what we're going to be going to in this section because I don't feel that we're at the level to develop our own e-commerce framework. So for that, I feel that saleor is a better option. Just between Cartridge, Oscar, and saleor, I kind of feel like saleor is the best for me. It's probably not the most popular, although there is a lot of active support, which is really nice. I've actually personally managed to contribute to some of the documentation on this, so that was really cool. Um, and I feel that it gives me exactly what I need for the workflow that I have. So let's go into the Saleor package. It doesn't have a documentation link here. What it does have is a link to a GitHub repository. So what I found with Saleor is of this a lot of the activity is based from and around GitHub. So a lot of the bug requests or the documentation, all of that is directly linked to GitHub. So let's open up the Get Saleor site. And this is great. So if you do a Google search for Sketchless, saleor will actually be one of the things that come up because it is actively maintained by both Sketchless and saleor developers. So this doesn't really help us. It just gives us a good overview of the product. So feel free to go onto this and just have a look at it. What I do want to do though is see the saleor docs. Here we go. This is what I'm looking for. And then we're going to go to getting started. Lovely. So when I was trying to install saleor initially, I noticed that this whole setup is very much structured around having Docker set up. So I don't really want to get into what Docker is right now. But one thing that Docker does offer, which makes life a lot easier, is Postgres SQL, which is actually a typo here that I made myself, which still needs to be fixed. But what Postgres SQL is just a nice way of doing SQL, and this is required by one of the Python packages that need to be installed. So these are some prerequisites that you'll need. So Python we know we've got that installed. Pip, we've got it installed. Python package if we're using pip older than that, so we don't need this. We have npm, so node, so that's fine. We don't have webpack installed. If you have it on your PC or your Mac, then that's great, but I just want to go ahead and install webpack globally. So this -g parameter here will just install it globally. So if I go back to my terminal, I've created a saleor folder, and it doesn't really matter which folder I'm in because I'm installing this globally. So this is nice. So now I'm installing Webpack, which is very similar to the task manager grant that we use. It is also kind of like a task manager, except obviously saleor has specifically been built with Webpack in mind. And the final thing is Postgres SQL. So there are many different ways that you can install this. I've actually got an app running on my system called Postgres app, and that will just allow me to have Postgres. It's very similar to if you had to install MySQL onto your system. I'm not going to go into how to install that, but it might be a good idea to go to this website and then just download the latest version for your operating system. So that's postgresql.org. Cool, great, and here are all your options. So let's close this tab, and let's just go through the requirements for getting started. So we've installed all of these things here on our side. And let's go ahead and install this. So this is very different to the way that we've usually done our installations. Usually we've done it via a pip package, whereas what this is doing, as I mentioned earlier, is installing a Git download. So for me personally, I prefer to work on Git because it's something that's actively maintained and the community can contribute to it. And it's very easy to see everything that's going on within it. And at the same time, you can do things like use your own fork of Git, so you can actually edit Saleor's code if you want to. And so that's really nice for me. So if you don't have Git installed, so it may actually need to be added to this requirements, this prerequisites list, but you can just go ahead and install the Git command line tool. So you'll need to actually install that as a external package to your command line tool. So I'm just going to open up a new tab here. I'm not going to go to GitHub, I'm just going to go to Git. And then maybe downloads is better, so let's go to the downloads on Git. And then if you don't already have it installed, you can follow the installation instructions and just install it on your relevant operating system, and then close out your terminal and then open it again, and then you should have access to the Git command. So I don't really want to get too much into version control right now, but essentially what I'm doing is I'm just creating my own version of the code that can be found here. And if we want to actually have a look at that code in our browser, we can just take out the .git and go here, and I think we may have opened this earlier. Yes, and now we can have a look at this, all the files that are included here. So you'll notice we've got Docker files, we've got gitignore files, all of this stuff. Cool, so let's go ahead and clone that. So I'm just going to copy this line here, go back into our terminal, and git clone dot. And what dot is just the current directory. So nothing's in here just yet. Let's wait for this to finish cloning, and then obviously we need to cd into that directory, and then we need to do our pip install for our requirements. So what if we go back to the GitHub repo here, you'll actually see that we have a requirements.txt file, and if we go into that, it will give us a list of all the requirements that we need. So the one that I was talking about where you do need Postgres is starts with a P, P-Y, let's see where it is. No, it doesn't. It's not too, here we go. Oh my goodness, no wonder I couldn't find it. Yeah, so this requires Postgres to be installed. So if you try and run your pip install requirements.txt without Postgres installed, this is going to give you an error which is very confusing. Cool, so yeah, just so you know, you do need to have that installed. Okay, fantastic. So now we open up our Saleor file, and we can see we have all of the things that Saleor has given us. So if we just had to clone to something else, so we just went like Saleor, it would clone to that file. Because we did a dot, it now clones it into the actual directory. Okay, lovely. Let's go back and let's look at our next instruction that we need. We need to set our secret key. So this is a command line command that we'll need to run. So let's just copy that, and my secret key can be anything that I want it to be. So I'm just going to make my secret key hello world. Nobody will ever guess this, and this should be something that nobody can guess because it is related to the security of your site. So that was a terrible secret key that I just created. Cool, and we know how this works. Python migrate, manage.py migrate. And this is going to run all of the migrations on our site. We are getting a, oopsie, we need to run our pip install requirements.txt. We haven't run that yet. Well, that is awkward. Let's just run that. And the reason I know this is because it says no module named DJ database URL. And if we actually just go to our requirements file here, we can actually see that DJ database URL is here in our requirements file. So I hope you're kind of getting the hang of how Python works and how all of these things work. A lot of the stuff is being installed from cache for me, so it's going to take a lot quicker. It's obviously going to take a lot longer for you. Things like Django and all the other libraries that we've been using should be prerequisites for this requirements.txt file. There we go, there's Pillow. And here's the one that would fail usually if we didn't have Postgres installed. And then next we need to run our migrate, so we haven't done that yet. So let's just wait for this to finish installing. Hopefully it is done in the next. Oh my goodness, what on earth is all of this gunk? Okay, so what I suspect this is related to the fact that we have not activated our virtual environment. As you can see, so that really sucks. So let's just do that quickly. We haven't actually created our virtual environment yet, so I'm going to go virtual env and I'm going to go sal. Cool, to creating our virtual environments. And then what I want to do is go ahead and run that. So .sal bin activate for the 1000th time. Oopsie, it's sal, not sla. Cool, and now we have that running, so now we can run our pip install requirements.txt. And thank goodness for Django caching, because otherwise this would just take forever. And then let's not forget to run this once that is complete. Let me just set my, actually I think that the export secret key remains active, so this command stays constant even though we've got all those errors. Just wait a few more seconds. Great, and this is now successful. I'm very happy with this. So let's paste our manage.py. Should do all of our migrations. Fantastic. I am super happy with that. So just the rule, guys, don't forget to activate your virtual environment. So when you're installing this, yeah, it's very important. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to run npm install, which I don't know exactly to what level this is right now, but what I'm looking for is a package.json file. Great, and now this is what we fiddled with in the last section when we looked at installing SCSS. So obviously these are all the JavaScript and CSS dependencies that that are being used by saleor. So you'll see things like there's Modernizer, there's SAS, which has actually been installed. There's different versions or different parts of jQuery. So this is all really nice stuff that Node Package Manager is using. And usually we would use this with Grunt, but in this case it's going to be Webpack. So instead of a grunt.js file, we've got a webpack.config.js file. And again, this is going to run all of our watch, all of our builds and all of that. So this is really cool. So let's run our npm install, and that's going to target our package.json file. It's going to install all the dependencies within there from the Node Package Manager system. And then we are going to run build assets. Just having a little look at this file here while we wait for this to finish downloading. Great, and after a few minutes it's finished downloading everything. So that's really cool. Let's just go back to our list of requirements, and now let's run our server and see if this actually works. Taking a little bit longer, and great, it looks like saleor is up and running. So this is really cool. We now have saleor up and running. What I think we may want to do, let's just go back to our browser. I'm gonna, in this tab here, I'm gonna go localhost, and it's telling us there's a Webpack error. So are you sure Webpack has generated the file and the path is correct? No, I'm not sure because we haven't run the Webpack command. So let's run our Webpack command the same way that we would run our grunt command. Another really cool task manager is called Gulp. It's also written in JavaScript the same way that Webpack and grunt are written in JavaScript. And let's see what this gives us. I'm just going to go back to the site quickly and see if there's anything else that we need to install. Let's actually populate our database with some dummy data just to see what it looks like when it has been populated. Cool, and it successfully run our Webpack. It's told us how long it's run for 16 seconds, so that's quite a long time, or 16,952 milliseconds. And I think we may be able to, I don't know why I copied that. Let's just run our populated DB quickly. And it's populating our database with some dummy data, so that's really nice, creating some dummy products, some dummy users, some dummy orders. And the last thing that I would like to do actually before I try to run the site is we're going to go and create a super user. So manage.py, create super user. And email, I think that email address is required. Because that is the system that saleor uses to log in. Great, and now let's actually go ahead and run our server. So this was a painless process to set up. Obviously, it had a few more dependencies, and because we were using GitHub as opposed to the regular Python way of doing things, it was a little bit different, and there were a few more steps, but all in all, it was quite straightforward. Cool, and we successfully have a store up and running. And this really looks a lot cooler than the other stores in my opinion, just because there's dummy data installed on it. So we can go into this and we can have a look at this stuff. We can add it to our cart. So a lot of this has been set up for you by saleor, so that's really, really nice. And I feel that this is a really nice middle ground between Oscar, which gives you a lot, and Cartridge, which doesn't really give you anything, and you need to do it yourself. So this gives you enough to get by, but not so much that it becomes overwhelming. So let's actually just open up our back end of the site and have a little look at that. So I'm going to log in with my credentials that I created. Oh, you need to log in with your email address. Cool, and this is a lot simpler than what can be found on the Oscar one, and it looks a lot cleaner than the mezzanine one, obviously because it's not middleware and it's actually just a template project, so to speak. So you'll notice under products here we don't have any products. Now this was the first thing that threw me. So you can create categories, but you can't create products. But what I did notice was that when we were running our template data install, here are all of our requests that we've made, it did actually create products for us. So what is going on over here? So this relates to one of the earlier issues that we had when creating a Django site. So what's really nice about this as well, like I mentioned, is because it's a template, it's got everything here out of the box. So you can have a look at all of the models, you can edit anything you want to over here. I wouldn't recommend editing any core stuff. And again, because it's on GitHub, we're currently sitting, if I open a new tab, you'll see we're currently sitting on a GitHub branch. And we can go ahead and create our own branch off that, push it to GitHub if we've got GitHub set up, a GitHub account, and then we can have template projects set up for ourselves, which are kind of extensions for saleor. So what I want to do is I want to go to the product model. So this works very similarly to the way we set up our Django when we first installed it. So opening up our saleor folder, and here are the list of all of our models. So I'm going to go to the product model, and I'm sure you recognize some of these files: views, URLs, utils, etc., etc. And then there's actually a models folder, so that's great. And I actually just want to go into the admin. So this is one thing that I'm going to need. And then the other thing that I'm going to need is I'm looking for a product class. Great. So that's going to be base.py and then product. So we want to see where category gets pulled from. So from models, import product image category and then product. So we can actually, so it has been created, we just haven't been able to see it on the admin side of things. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to say the same thing, comma product here. I'm also going to add product image as well, because product images are also a separate model to products. We've saved this, and let's go ahead and refresh this page. I think it may be because our server died. Let's check if we've got any typos. Register at most 3 arguments given 5. So let's take these out. And let's just create a new argument specifically, a new call specifically for that. So I'm going to call product on its own line, and I'm going to call product image on its own line. Great, and because our database has been pre-populated with this information, we should just be able to see that information sitting there. Fantastic, and now we can see all of our products. So this is really cool, and like I mentioned, it doesn't show this to you. I don't know why saleor assumes that you don't want to see this out of the box, but it doesn't show it to you out of the box. It only really shows you the bare basics. And the same with product images. We can actually go ahead and add and remove images here. And again, because so maybe just an exercise, it's returning product image object. We don't really want to return that. We would rather return, I can see actually why they're doing that, because they don't have a title field for this, but image may be a better option for that. So if we now go into our models, our product models, and we have a look at images and product image, and then we had our special string method that we used, which was, I can't spell, def, and then underscore str underscore, and then we can say return, I think you need to pass self in here, we can return self dot image, and save that, and let's see if anything breaks. We probably, because image is not a text field, so let's maybe call something that is a text field. So alt, let's go to products, images, and because there aren't any alts set up here, we can't actually click on them, so I think that sucks even more. I'm now beginning to understand why they decided to do it the way that they did. But let's just uncomment this for now, load this again, go into our short description. That's not what I want to do. Go to our short description and say short description of product. Save it. So this is obviously now a short description. So I'm just looking for the short description. It's, there we go, short description there. So it is alt. I'm going to use alt here. A very roundabout process to try and prove my point here. And there we go, we can now see that what is being returned is short description. So we can edit this as much as we want to, and I feel like the flexibility that saleor offers you is much greater than that of Oscar and of the other one, which is Cartridge and Mezzanine.